Thinking of coming back to church? Here are a few thoughts that I hope might help. Hi, I'm Warren, director here at St Columba's. Glad you could join me for my message of the day. A while ago I was talking to someone who had left the church, any connection to the church, when they were about 12 years of age. They'd been taught something of the faith up until then, in a 12-year-old sort of way, a childlike faith, if you like. But as they grew beyond that, their 12 years of age, in all other areas of their life, in knowledge and experience, when they then looked back on their faith, it seemed ridiculous, unbelievable. How could an adult believe this? Exactly. They still had a 12-year-old's faith. By leaving the church, they'd missed out on all the adult development that would have taken place to situate their faith in an adult's way of seeing the world, in an adult's knowledge and experience. So coming back to the church, he was able to pick up that what he'd lost, what he'd missed out on as an adult. And in that process, he said he'd had to unlearn some of what he'd thought he knew to be able to learn in an adult way what the Christian faith was about. That's, I suspect, not an uncommon experience for people, to realise that what they thought the Christian faith was actually bears very little resemblance to what the church actually believes. So if you were to come back to church, this might apply to you. You might discover that what you thought you believed isn't actually quite what the church believed. And that's just an opportunity, an invitation, if you like, to catch your faith up to your experience and your years of age, so to speak. Another common experience of people coming back to church is to discover that what they had learnt as adults is actually from sources which are hostile to the church or dismissive of the church. They might present themselves as providing a neutral glimpse at what the church is about and what it believes, but actually that's not the case. Such people might use sort of simple binaries like superstition versus rationality and science, or prejudice versus tolerance, or they might focus on religious extremists and make it look as though those extremists are the norm in Christianity. So this can be a common experience. When you come back to church, you discover that in a way you might have fallen for a bit of propaganda. And I've met people who are a little bit shocked that they hadn't been able to see through this. In fact, when people come back to church, they discover that there is so much more to learn, that there is, they haven't quite got a true picture of what the church is like. They want more knowledge. The church, we love this, more knowledge, so that we can tread the path we're on. People don't want to be kept in the dark. Coming to church will actually provide some light. So, again, this is that experience of coming back to church and discovering that what you knew doesn't bear enough similarity to what the church actually believes. You know, the church isn't a cult. It's more rational to believe than not to believe. And once you become familiar with the practices of prayer and worship at church, they won't seem that alien at all. I have found that coming to church and engaging with its knowledge and practices within a community of faith, not just by yourself, but within a community of faith, has opened up my knowledge of the world and of life immeasurably. So Christianity doesn't exclude knowledge, it hungers for it. Of every secular subject you can think of that is studied at university level, you'll find theologians writing in dialogue with it. And people from all walks of life, with all the full array of interests, knowledge and experience of others in the general community, find a home in the faith, in a faith community. At church, a whole vista of knowledge, thought, practice opens up to us. And at one level that might seem a bit daunting when you first come back to church, because it's so broad and deep, but it is very moving and profound. Next week I might talk a little bit about that feeling of how daunting it might be to come back to church, to discover all this knowledge and practice and insight that might seem like, oh, there's too much. How do you start engaging with it? I want to talk about a bit about that next week. So thanks for joining me. Bye bye.